For Shira, he would have been Mashiach, and Sisera would have been the war of Gog and Magog. So we find just the opposite, that not only did Chizkiyahu not get credited for song, he got criticized for not singing. So what is Yeshaya referring to? And that's why some leave this one out. And I think that that's appropriate, because you cannot give him a commendation for singing and at the same time criticize him for not completing a proper shira to Hashem. So, again, this is in Lamed Chet Yud. My apologies. And here we go. These are the words of Yeshaya. Amarti lo ereh ka. This is Chizkiyahu's song that he sang not during the war, because during the war he did not sing, but he did sing when he was granted an extra 15 years of life. Okay, you remember the episode. Yeshayahu Navi comes and tells him, pack your stuff, you're heading to Gan Eden. What did I do wrong? You refused to have children. I don't want to have children because I know I'm going to have a very wicked son named Menashe who will have no chelik in Olam Haba, will basically destroy, according to Chachamim, and will basically destroy the monarchy of David completely and lead us towards Galus. Basically, by the time Menashe was finished with Klal Yisrael, Avodah Zarah was so rampant that the deal was done. He put it, according to Mar Chelik, he already put an idol in the Beit HaMikdash, although he had enough respect to leave it on top of the Beit HaMikdash, But then Yaacov, who follows him, puts it into the Kodesh Kodashim. But it was just like the cat was out of the bag already. Once it's over there, what's the distance between here and there? Once we broke that barrier. So he said a shira when he was granted new life. Amarti bidmi yamai elecha b'sharei shaol pukadti yeser shnosai. Right on the edge of Gehenna, right on the edge of death, the grave, not Gehenna, but the grave. You gave me extra life. Okay? So that was that. Now, others will replace that with the shira of Adam Harishon. And I kind of like that shot, personally. The Targum in Shir Shirim says that Adam's song was what? Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbos. Tov Lahodus Hashem. Right? So let's try to understand what the message of these 10 shirim are. So it would seem that according to the Targum in Shir Shirim, 10 songs means that's it. That's the story of the world. The completion cycle, coming around full circle. So other Rishon you could understand. What did other Rishon sing about? What was the end that he saw, that he was singing praises for? He thought that after he did sin, right, his world was going to end. And indeed, what happens? He sins, and it becomes Friday night, right? He sinned on Erev Shabbos. The world goes dark. No more world. At least now visible world. And then when the sun rises on Shabbos morning, he sings Mizmor Shem Shabbos. So what's that? That's the concept of tshuva. That humankind has more than one chance. Okay? So that starts the process. Adam Harishon starts the process of man's redemption. Therefore, every song is another step in that redemptive process. Okay? The return and the tikkun of the chet of Adam Harishon, which darkened the world. So now, every time we get a blast of light, we sing Shira, because we're heading towards that final moment where we go back to the stage where we're like Adam Harishon, where we are no longer bound by mortality, where we will become liberated from our human state, and we'll cross over to become something more angelic. It doesn't mean we're going to be angels mamish. We're far more than that. And we'll still have human form, and we'll still be involved perhaps in a physical world, according to many Rishonim. And therefore, Adam's song was the first glimpse of hope. What was the next song according to that? Moshe Rabbeinu. Because now, the next hope of the world was what? Klal Yisrael. Because although Adam was saved, so to speak, to be given that second chance, the second chance of mankind only is going to come through whom? Through Am Yisrael. The birth of Am Yisrael was the next great flash of hope. And that's why if you look in Az Yashir, you'll find references to the future. Like Malachei Edom. I mean, what does Edom have to do with anything? You find Plishtim, and the Mefarshim are trying to find out, like, why are these... We're talking about Mitzrayim over here. Why are you bringing all these other nations? Because it was a foreshadowing of the future. Hence, Yashir. Yashir, futuristic. What does that mean, futuristic? That the Jewish people will encounter many enemies, but they are immortal. The first thing that became immortal as a group since Adam HaRishon was Am Yisrael. Our first taste of Nitzchius, right? So that was a great burst of light. Hence song number 2. Let's go further. Yehoshua comes next. Right? No. The Be'er of Miriam. What does the Be'er of Miriam have to do? The Be'er of Miriam is the fact that Klal Yisrael has a future after Moshe Rabbeinu and Miriam. That it wasn't only the generation of the Exodus that would have that level and that achievement, but guess what? There's going to be the next generation. So the continuity in Klal Yisrael, that Klal Yisrael reached this level, but even though their leaders disappeared, there's going to be leaders in every generation that will take the role of Moshe and Miriam. And they're going to have their Be'er Mayim, which is what? The Torah, which is really the Torah. And that's going to be the ingredient that ensures our immortality. Those physical human beings may have touched immortality at the time of Matan Torah, but it was not their destiny to live forever. Because right away came the Chet HaEgel. So, ironically, just as they reach the point where they can fix Adam's sin, right? Boom, here comes the Satan with Chet HaEgel and schleps them back into the world of death and darkness. A light came through the fact that they received the Torah, though. The Torah itself, if it wasn't going to be that generation have Nitzchius, their children certainly would. And that was with the transition, I believe, the Be'er Miriam, that the Torah would give us life and be our source of Nitzchius for the future generations. Okay, who comes next? Ha'azinu Shamayim. This is the Nevuah. Already the end of the Torah is a transition between the Chamishi Chumshei Torah and the Navi. Okay? The Sefer Dvarim partially was credited to Moshe's own intelligence and articulation, unlike the first 4 books of the Torah. Some people say it was a transition between Torah Shebechsav on the ultimate level, and now we're moving into a lower level where the human being is more part of the process, and not pure word of Hashem, but it's the... Okay, so that transition is what Hazinu is all about. Hazinu tells us the advent of Nevuah. There's going to be Nevi'im that will follow Moshe Rabbeinu. That's a big deal. Because, and Moshe guaranteed it, he says, you're going to sing this song forever. You're going to remember it. And there's going to be others who will remind you of it. Okay, so you could say it's a reference to Nevi'im, but that's the Mesiras HaTorah, right? It goes, Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai, Misara le Yoshua, and Yeshua le Zikanim, Zikanim le Nevi'im. That's the chain that's going on over here. So it's a transition between Moshe Rabbeinu and the, so to speak, the elders, which included Yehoshua, etc. And then the great thing that happened was Yehoshua was able to take it into the next level, which is what? Eretz Yisrael. Because up until now, the hope of mankind rested with the Jewish people. But to really have the full tikkun of the mortality of man, of our disconnection from Hashem, by virtue of having a Yetzer Hara in us that takes us away from the service of Hashem and the reality of our Bechira, which is so difficult to overcome, in the end, there's not going to be Bechira anymore. We're going to be beyond Bechira. We want to go back to the time, although Rabbi Arush, Shalom Ashari says, what's the rush? Because once there's no Bechira anymore, guess what? You don't get any schar anymore. So he says often, he goes, people always tell me, Rabbi, Mashiach's coming. He goes, stop worrying about Mashiach so much. Concentrate on doing Torah mitzvos, because this is your chance. Chaperein. Because Mashiach's going to come. This is going to be a little boring. You're not going to have any chance to win any awards. Everybody's going to be good. Everything is going to be good. No more challenges. It's partially comical, but you get the point. So, Yoshua being able to hold the sun and the moon together. What does the moon remind us of? Am Yisrael. And particularly our hischachus, our ability to be mischadesh, where? In Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is a key to the tikkun of Adam HaRishon, because that's where Adam HaRishon comes from. And particularly a certain place, Adam HaRishon's, where the dust that was formed into Adam HaRishon came from where? Har HaMoriah, right? The place where Akedas Yitzchak took place. The place where, according to the Rambam, Noach brought a carbon. The hope of mankind, Har HaBayis. Right? That's where man is going to return to perfection. So the fact that Yoshua could get us into Eretz Yisrael was tremendous. Now, after Yoshua, we go on to Devorah. Okay, why Devorah? Because, first of all, she's a Neviah, which is important. That's another level. That not only are there, not only is our Geula dependent on, the men, but rather the women are, and their Nevuah is a major force. In fact, here, Devorah completely exceeded Barak, right? And she chided him for they're going to say, it's not your victory, it's a victory that you won through a woman. But we say, B'schus Nashim Tzidkanios Nigalu. And she was also a poseket, for lack of a better word. What? She was a judge. So over here, what we do, and similarly with Tfilas Chana, is we establish the fact that without the achievements, the spiritual achievements of women, they have to become part of this process. And you might say that this is the redemption not of Adam, but of who? Of Chava. And in fact, Chana and Chava sound alike. And what was Chana's struggle? To give birth. And who is Chava? Em Kol Chaya. Right? The birth of Shmuel actually signaled another important step towards the Geula, because it's Shmuel who would sit down with David HaMelech and identify Har HaBayis. Do you know that? No one knew where it was until Shmuel was born. And it also meant the end of the Mishkan, because the Mishkan was a step in the process. But what happens? There was a corruption in Eli and his sons, right? But Eli's sons. And Eli dies when the Aron Kodesh is taken right over here to Kiryat Gat. I mean, not Kiryat Gat, but you know what I mean. Plishtim land. And Shmuel's birth and growth, he was already born, but he was that little boy who knew that Eli, what's his nevuah, that Eli was going to die, and a new era would come about where he would become the leader of Klal Yisrael. And he was a Levi, not a Kohen. It's very interesting. We transitioned from the leadership of the Kohanim to the leadership of the Leviim. He's a Levi. And he would be the one to identify Shaul and David HaMelech. So it represents the stage of Malchus Yisrael. Now we're getting serious. As we warm up through Shmuel and David, we really are getting to the point where evil can be vanquished, although unfortunately Shaul was conquered by the evil, Plishtim, and in his own mind became tormented. So he didn't win that war completely, but he did a great job up until then. And then David HaMelech comes in and completes that task. So then you understand that the next year is going to be Shiras David, that he battled mortality, because mankind's laurels rest on him. If he doesn't dodge death at every turn, right, we don't have that person who's going to give us the person who will build the Beis HaMikdash, i.e. Shlomo HaMelech. If he doesn't fight us through those wars and establish peace, that's the stage. David HaMelech is the establishment of Shalom, which is huge because we cannot bring people back to their tikkun if there's incessant war, bloodshed, fighting, hatred. That has to stop. We have to eradicate evil, right? In our generations, in these times, we saw basically two approaches to try to conquer evil. One is to give it candy and treat it very nicely and hope that it'll behave. What have we learned? The more you feed evil, the stronger it becomes. So what do you have to do to evil? You have to starve it by cutting off its funds, or you have to ultimately exterminate it. True evil. And that was only David HaMelech. David HaMelech completed Mechias Amalek that Shaul started. Okay? Without that completion, we cannot pave the way. One of the jobs of the Melech Yisrael, when we get to that stage, is to eradicate Amalek. This is the stage. And Shlomo's song represents that. Shlomo can sing. He doesn't sing about the Beis HaMikdash, but he does sing about the conquest of evil, which paved the way to the Beis HaMikdash, because ultimately his Beis HaMikdash was not going to be the full story. So who sings the final song? Shir Shel Asid, which Yeshaya speaks about that in the Parak Mem Beis, the future song. Okay, so if you remember, there was a song, we spoke about the Eagles song. When I was growing up, the Eagles song that I knew was, the little bird is, what do you call it? The little bird is calling. Do you remember that song? I think it was just redone by a choir recently. And it says, I even wrote down, did I write down the words for you? Little bird of silver, right? And surrounded by the vultures, right? And the eagle comes and saves him. So what do we identify? Who's the little bird of silver so delicate and rare? Klal Yisrael. Who's going to save him? The eagle. Who's the eagle? Mashiach. Okay. We associate the eagle with Mashiach. Very interesting. That's what the pasuk says. Ve'esa'etchem al kanfei nisharim va'avi'eschem elai. Why? Because Mashiach comes when the Jewish people are in a desperate state. When they're about to succumb to the 49th level of Tumah, when all seems lost, when the game of the Satan that he plays, he seems to be winning, at that very last moment, we snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, as it were, and we say, no. The side of Tov, the side of Chaim, the Eitz Chaim will triumph. And that's the symbol of Avias. What the Forshim over there says, and I'll add with this, just we'll conclude with this, that the Abir Yaacov in his Peirush says, based on the Kabbalah, that based on the Zohar and so on, there's another thing where we speak about kanafayim, right? Kanfei nisharim. What else is kanfei? Kanfei bigdeihem, tzitzis. And what Hashem said was, I drew you up from the lowest depths. I lifted you up to the place of eagles from the depths. Now stay there. Wrap yourself in a talus of mitzvos. And he speaks about the concrete mitzvos of tefillin. And actually he says that that's the gematria of tzitzis. Is, I think Kanfei Nisharim is the gematria tzitzis. You have to check in the Abir Yaakov. Okay, check my math. But he says, what Hashem was doing is lift you up. And how am I going to allow you to be on that level? Surround yourself, connect yourself to me. Put on tefillin, sit in a sukkah, hold the lulav, wrap in a talus, a direct, almost physical connection. And that's the symbol of a talus. You spread a talus, that was Boaz and Rus. That's what the chuppah is. This is a marriage. And he says, right after the pasuk says, and you'll be an Am Segula, you'll be my treasured nation. That's associated with the idea of the Nesher, lifting people up. So, maybe that the eagle's one is a good symbol for Klal Yisrael. The great Nesher should come and lift us up a little bit, a lot. And they sang their song. And Miz Hashem, we'll sing our song. The real song, Blessed Lava, when we'll be conquering all the depths that we had fell to through history. And Klal Yisrael will redeem the world and we'll have a song, Bashir, will come full circle, right? And not only that, but circle means that people are at peace, at shalom. There's no hierarchy. There's a shlemut between nations and Am Yisrael, between families, between husbands and wives. That's the shalom, the circle of shalom that we're looking to close. We should see that in Herv Yameinu.